Economists at Dartmouth University studied happiness levels across 132 countries. And what they found will surprise you. The unhappiest age group on the planet is not teenagers, it is not the elderly, it is people between 30 and 45. The decade that is supposed to be the best of your life is statistically the most miserable one. And the World Health Organization confirms it. Anxiety and depression peaks between the age of 32 and 38. And the research from London School of Economics found that life satisfaction hits its absolutely lowest point at exactly age 34. So what is going on? It is called a midlife crisis. And the simple explanation is this. It is the moment a person stops running and thinks, wait, is this actually the life I wanted? There is something strange that happens to people in their 30s and no one really talks about it. When you were younger, you probably had this idea of a midlife crisis in your head. You imagine someone in their 50s buying an expensive car, making big in their life, making big sudden decisions, doing something dramatic. But that is not what it looks like anymore. Today, the crisis starts much earlier. And the most confusing part is, it does not look like a crisis at all, because from the outside, everything seems fine. You might have a job, you might be earning decently, maybe you even did everything you were supposed to do. Study well, get a stable career, build a life step by step, and yet something feels off. There is no big problem, no major failure, but inside there is this quiet discomfort. A feeling you cannot fully explain. You wake up, you go through your day, do your work, but somewhere in the back of your mind, a question keeps coming back. And that question is powerful. Because when someone goes through a midlife crisis, it is not just in their thoughts. Their brain and body are also reacting. First, the brain starts to become more aware of time. There is part of the brain that constantly thinks about the future. In your 30s, this part becomes more active. You start thinking more about life choices and what is left. At the same time, stress levels increases. The body releases more cortisol, which is the stress hormone. This can lead to overthinking, feeling anxious without a clear reason, trouble focusing, feeling tired even without doing much. Your brain also becomes less excited by things that once made you happy. And this happens because of something called dopamine. In your 20s, new things, achievements, and wins give you strong dopamine hits. But in your 30s, the same things do not feel as exciting. So even if your life improves, your feelings do not match it. Your body may also show signs like low energy, sleep problem, feeling mentally exhausted, a constant sense of restlessness. In simple words, your brain is trying to understand your life and your body is reacting to that confusion. And that is why a midlife crisis does not just feel emotional, it feels physical too. There is a moment in your 30s when time stops feeling unlimited. In your 20s, you never really think about it. Life feels long, there is always later. Later to fix things, later to try again, later to figure out life. But somewhere around your 30s, that feeling changes. For the first time, you start doing the math. If I live till 80, I'm already a big part done. And suddenly, time feels real. Not scary in a dramatic way, but heavy. You start noticing timelines everywhere. Career, you think, should I be further ahead by now? Relationships, am I too late or too early or just stuck? Then comes something deeper, the biological clock. Especially for many people, there is a pressure around family, children, stability. And at the same time, something else is happening quietly. Your parents are getting older. You start seeing small changes, health issues, less energy, more responsibility coming your way. And this creates a strange position. You are no longer just taking care of yourself. You're now responsible for both sides, the next generation and the previous one. And this is why it is called the sandwich phase. You are in the middle, holding everything together. And in all of these, a quiet panic builds. Am I running out of time to do what I really want? But here is the truth. This panic is not here to scare you. It is here to wake you up. Because for the first time, you're not just living life, you're becoming aware of it. So here is a question. And be honest with yourself when you hear it. If everything has taken away tomorrow, the job title, the salary, the relationship, the family role, the social circle, all of it, okay? Who would you be left with? Who are you when you're not being useful to someone? Most people in their 30s, when they sit with that question, honestly go very quiet. Because somewhere along the way, without fully realizing it, they stopped being a person and became a role. They become the manager, they become the spouse, they became parent, the responsible one, and the one who holds everything together, the one everyone depends on. And they played the role so completely, so consistently for so long that the person underneath the role slowly became a stranger. Think about it this way. In the 20s, there was a permission to not know, permission to explore, to change direction, to try things and abandon them and try completely different things. Nobody expected a 23-year-old to have life figured out. And that uncertainty was almost exciting. But in the 30s, the world expects solidity. The world expects that by now the person knows who they are, what they want, where they are going. So they perform the solidity. They show up confident, they make decisions, they act like they have it together, even when inside they feel like a complete stranger to themselves. Jung wrote about this exact moment. He said that in the first half of life, a person builds a personality on what the world needs from them. What the parents wanted, what the job required, what the relationship expected. And then, in the mid-30s, life becomes demanding something different. It becomes demanding that they figure out who they actually are underneath all of that. He called it individualization, the process of becoming truly yourself. And the crisis, the confusion, the restlessness, all of it is not the problem. It is the process. The identity is not collapsing. It is making room. Room for something more honest, something more real. Something that was always there but never had a space to exist. And there is a kind of loss in your 30s that no one really prepares you for. It is not loud, not dramatic, but you feel it slowly, quietly. In your 20s, friendship felt easy. You met often, you talked daily, you shared everything. There was time, there was energy, there was closeness without effort. But in your 30s, things start to change. Not because something went wrong, but because life moved forward. People get busy. Careers grow. Some get married, some move cities, some start families. And slowly, without any fight or conflict, you stop behaving like before. Messages become occasional, calls become rare, meeting becomes we should catch up soon, and sometime that soon never comes. This creates a silent kind of loneliness because technically you still have friends, but emotionally the connection is not the same. And the hardest part is no one talks about this. No one says it is normal to lose closeness in your 30s. So you start thinking something is wrong with you, but it is not. It is a phase many people go through. So it is not just friendships. You slowly lose a few things that once felt natural. You lose time. Time becomes scheduled, limited, and planned. You lose spontaneity. No more random plans, late night talks, or unplanned trips. You lose emotional openness. People share less. Everyone is dealing with their own life. You lose a sense of belongingness. You no longer feel part of a group like before. You lose energy for relationships, and after work and responsibility, there is very little left. Have you wondered how it affects you? At first, you may not notice it, but over time, it starts to affect you deeply. You feel more alone in your thoughts. You overthink more because you have fewer people to talk to, and you start depending more on social media. But that never replaces real connection. You feel like everyone is moving ahead with their lives, while you are quietly drifting. And sometimes, you miss the version of yourself you were around those friends. Because friendships are not just about people, they are about who you become around them. And that is why losing that closeness feels like losing a part of yourself. But understanding this is even more important. Because this is not the end of connection, it is just a shift from many people to a few real ones. So now the real question is, what do you actually do with all of this? Because awareness without action is just a pain with a label on it. So here is a framework, 7 steps, one for each letter of the word rebuild. because that is exactly what this is. Not a breakdown, but a rebuild. R. Redefine what success means to you. Not your parents' version, not the LinkedIn version, and not the version especially that was handed to you when you were 18 and had actually no idea what they were yet. Their version, a simple but powerful question to sit with: what would a genuinely good life look like if nobody was watching? No one to impress, no one to prove anything to. Just them and the honest answer. So whatever comes up, that is the direction worth moving in. E. Embrace the discomfort as information. The restlessness, the emptiness, the quiet pain at 2 a.m., none of it is malfunction. It is a data. It is the internal system saying something needs to change. And the worst thing to do is numb it. And people try. Netflix, overworking, scrolling, alcohol, staying busy so that there is no space to fill it. But numbing doesn't heal anything. It just delays it. Sit with it. Ask it what it is trying to really tell you. The answer is usually already there waiting. B. Build an identity outside the resume. This means finding something that belongs entirely to them. Not the job, not the role, not what they provide for other people. A sport, a craft, a creative outlet, something they do just because it makes them feel alive. Because identity built on only one pillar, the career pillar, the parent pillar, the relationship pillar, collapses the moment the pillar shakes. They need more than one reason to know who they are. You unlearn the timeline. The idea that certain things must happen by a certain age is a story. A very convincing story, but a story nonetheless. Vera Wing did not design her first dress until she was 40. Morgan Freeman did not get his first major film role until he was 50. Julia Child published her first cookbook at 49. The timeline that feels so fixed and so urgent was largely invented, and it can be released. It is never as late as it feels. I invest in 2 or 3 real relationships. Not networking, not followers, not surface level catch-ups where everyone says they are fine and nobody means it. 2 or 3 people who know the full story, the struggles included, the doubts included, and the real version. Research from Harvard's longest running study on happiness, which tracked people for over 80 years, found one thing about everything else that predicted long-term well-being. And not wealth, not achievement, not status, the quality of close relationship. One real friend is worth more than thousands connections. L. Let go of the life that was planned. This is the hardest one because it involves actual grief. Grieving the version of life that was imagined at 22, the person who was supposed to exist by now, the path that was supposed to unfold. That version needs to be mourned and then released. Because clinging to a plan made by someone you knew far less, lived far less, and felt far less is not loyalty to the self. It is just fear of change wearing a very strong, convincing disguise. D. Design deliberately from here. Not a 5-year plan, not a complete life overhaul. Just one week. What would an ideal week look like right now? With the actual life, the actual constraints, the actual possibilities that exist today. Not that fantasy version, the real version, small, specific, and honest. Because the next chapter does not begin with a grand decision. It begins with one small, deliberate choice, and then another, and then another. That is how it starts, and that is how it always starts. So here is the truth that ties all of this together. That midlife crisis in the 30s is not the proof that something went wrong. It is the proof that something really is trying to emerge. The discomfort is not the enemy. The discomfort is the invitation. The plan made at 22 was made in the dark. The person standing in their 30s with everything they have seen and learned and survived has so much more to work with now. The next page has not been written yet, and that is not a problem. That is everything.